We will keep this session short because exam is like 2 weeks away. So not too many topics, only important topics. So we'll just go through some very important ones. I will take this static part and then Ekam will take the current affairs part. I will share my screen. So I have prepared some list of topics. So in polity, again, the thing is that I have kept the list very small so that you can go through it. We are only 15 days away. So in constitution, one first thing should be historical evolution, like all those British acts, Charter Act, Council Acts, those things. So historical evolution as well as making of our constitution. So these two things. Secondly, fundamental rights. Every year UPSC will ask at least 3-4 questions from fundamental rights. So this is important. And directive principles of a state policy, sometimes they will ask questions, but fundamental right is more important. And the thing is, people will keep wasting time after unnecessary chapters like citizenship and this, that, but UPSC doesn't really ask many questions from those things. So I've only marked the chapters which are more important. Then legislature and parliament. So both the state legislature as well as working of parliament, every year there will be questions on this thing. Again, same thing with judiciary. So this thing includes the chapter on Supreme Court, High Court, lower judiciary, how police interacts with judiciary, what is bail, all these things. So even last year, 2 questions were asked on bail, prison reforms, etc. So it includes everything. I've given a broader context. So judiciary and then federalism. So there are chapters on center-state relation, then state council, interstate council, governors. So these kind of chapters and state legislature. So broadly speaking, the entire federalism. Again, local self-government. So like last month we had this anniversary on local self-government, so that becomes important. And finally, some questions might be asked on constitutional bodies. So like last year itself, they gave a list of constitutional body, and the question was that out of these bodies, how many are constitutional bodies? So in polity, as you can see, I've kept the list short. Only the more important topics one. Otherwise, entire Lakshmikant is important. Everything is important, but it's just the most important parts. So this is for polity. And for economy, basic ideas like what is GDP, what is GNP, what is national income, what is factor cost, what is market cost, things like that. And disposable income. So the basic concepts. Then secondly, money supply. So M1, M2, and then how government works in this money supply, role of government, like that. Then third thing is money market versus capital market. So capital market is long-term investment, money market is G-Sec, T-bills. So those kind of things. Then banking, for sure, every year 2 to 3 questions will come on banking. This is for sure. So banking is very important chapter in this regard. Same goes with money market and capital market as well. And then taxation, then fiscal policy and union budget. So budget notes you might be having and very basics of fiscal policy. Then types of inflation, their basic characteristics. Then agriculture. Agriculture is one thing that has seen a new emergence in UPSC. So in last 3-4 years, every year you will find minimum 3 to 4 questions. That is minimum. I'm saying minimum 3 to 4 questions on agriculture. You guys can pick any, refer to your GS sources, GS3 notes, etc., or current affairs note, but do keep an eye on agriculture because every year 3 to 4 questions at the very least will come from agriculture. So you do this, just basic ideas like type of crop, cropping intensity, how much water is being used in agriculture sector, then India is highest producer of what kind of crops, those kind of things. MSP, every year, every other year UPSC will ask a question on MSP. Fine. Then MSME and industry. So even last year questions came on MSME and people got very confused. So some basic notes. And see, the thing is, you have to go through these chapters by yourself in the books, whatever sources you have referred. I have only highlighted the important chapters here. That is the idea. So that you know which chapters to focus in last 2 weeks. Then various initiative taken by government for financial inclusion. Then indexes like human development indexes. And then WTO, World Bank, ILO, these kind of organizations. So that is for economy. I think that is enough for economy. Ekam will separately mention the current affairs part. I am mentioning only the static part. So Then for geography, in geography, one thing I will suggest is, first of all, you should pay attention to mapping part. I haven't mentioned it here, but last year around 10 questions came on mapping. So mapping you should do. What you can do is pick any decent current affair magazine and go through the areas in news they have mentioned. Secondly, in environment, you should be knowing national park, wildlife sanctuary, tiger reserve, Ramsar sites. Another very important part in mapping is rivers and their tributaries. So river and their tributaries, then some major mountains in India. So that is most important part in mapping. I should have mentioned it. Sorry, I forgot. So mapping becomes most important part. Then second, interior of earth, then various kind of landforms. Mineral is very favorite topic of UPSC. So you should be aware of major type of mineral where they are found. Climatology again, like even this year we are getting news that we might have a greater share of monsoon this year. So again, climatology, El Nino, La Nino, monsoon, these things become important. Then oceanography, type of ocean currents, etc. Every year, every other year, they will ask questions on these things. Then natural vegetation, like kind of forest, tropical forest, deciduous forest, these things. Agriculture, I have repeated from the above topic. So these things become important. Geography, pay more attention to mapping, and then you focus on areas like mineral rock, climatology, etc. And then my favorite part, ancient medieval art and culture. So those of you who haven't attended my previous sessions, in the past I was missing prelims by 1 marks, 2 marks every time. 3 years in a row I kept missing prelims, by first time by 1 marks, next year by 0.67 marks, and then by 2 marks. And after that, twice I was able to clear even forest service cutoff, which is usually more than 20 marks above civil service cutoff. So one thing that changed between then and now is that I gave a lot of focus to history, because history, UPSC will ask around 20-25 questions, and most of the people are not very well versed with history. So this is one part I really worked upon, so that I take an edge over other students. And ancient and medieval was important pillar. In your case, I think Justin sir himself teaches this part, so you can rely on that thing. I will only mention the important areas. So Indus Valley Civilization, almost every other year UPSC will ask one question from Indus Valley Civilization. It is very favorite topic for UPSC. So, you might open the chapter and you might start with this Paleolithic, Mesolithic, but those chapters are not very important. Indus Valley Civilization is favorite of UPSCs. So do this thing. Secondly, Maurya, post-Maurya. So they will keep asking about inscription, various inscription of Samudragupta, Ashoka, etc. So Maurya, post-Maurya becomes very important. And then Gupta, art and culture from Gupta chapter is very important. They have contributed significantly. Then some Bhakti and Sufi movement. Then in medieval period, Delhi Sultanate becomes very important. 2021, 2022, 2023. Same questions kept coming on Delhi Sultanate. Uh, some attacks of Mongols, and then Khilji, Tughlaq. These things become very important in Delhi Sultanate. So Delhi Sultanate is very important. Then Vijayanagar Empire. Again, in last year also 2-3 questions came from Vijayanagar Empire. And then very briefly on Mughal Empire. So the idea is that if you go through any notes of ancient history, medieval history, there are a lot of chapters, but these are few chapters that are very important. And then you should have some idea about travelers. And then Jainism and Buddhism, you can be almost sure that every year one question will come from Buddhism and Jainism. So again, that's the important part. And finally, the modern history. So pre-British era, when Portuguese came, then French, Dutch, those kind of things. Every other year, there is a trend of asking a question from pre-British area. So that thing. Then tribal revolts of early phase. Then early phase of Indian national movement when INC was not there. Then arrival of Mahatma Gandhi ji. And then how we shifted from phase of moderate to radical struggles, that kind of thing. Then non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, okay? And some major sessions of Indian National Congress. And finally, Cripps proposal, cabinet mission, Quit India mission, Indian National Movement, and the final independence. So these are some major areas in modern history. Then science and technology. So here what you should do is you can just refer to any coaching current affair magazine. Also, you can go through previous year question. So biotechnology like CRISPR, what is DNA, what is mRNA, those kind of thing, what is gene editing, what is gene expression. You will find these things in any coaching magazine. So go through these things. Then nanotechnology, semiconductor has become very important, especially because now government is paying attention to manufacturing of semiconductors in India. Then 5G is already there, 6G is being rolled out. So what is the difference? Then various kind of missiles that India is having, because recently we have tested a lot of missiles. And then quantum computing, lot in news. Then cyber security. Then Internet of Thing. Internet of Thing is something that has been UPSC's favorite since 2018. I have been observing. So Internet of Thing, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, etc. Then Mission Chandrayaan. You can also focus on other areas of ISRO. So that becomes important. And then new technologies like blockchain technology. So even in 2022 question paper, they prominently asked 2 questions from blockchain technology. So these are some major areas in science and tech. And finally, the environment part. So various type of pollutions, okay, air pollution, land pollution, water pollution, plastic pollution, and then waste management. Recently, there have been number of policies, number of rules for waste management, like ban on single-use plastic, then e-waste, plastic waste, etc. So those kind of waste. Then we have so many conventions like Bonn Convention, UNFCCC, COP annually. So these conventions, and then conventions on biodiversity, like recently we had this 30 for 30 initiatives. So those kind of things. And then Wildlife Protection Act, Indian Forest Act 1971, then what all is there in FRA 2006, Forest Right Acts. And then, like I already mentioned, that you need, from mapping perspective, you should be knowing about wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. So what happened in 2020 question paper, UPSC asked around 7 to 8 questions from national park and wildlife sanctuary. So there is very high probability that UPSC can again repeat the same pattern. So you should have some idea about major wildlife sanctuaries, national park, tiger reserve. Also, we have recently conducted elephant census, tiger census, cheetah census. I mean, cheetah have been introduced, then leopard census. So these things should be at your fingertips. You should be well aware of these things. And mangroves and Ramsar sites. So these are the important areas in environment. So I have deliberately kept the list low because we have only 2 weeks left now. So this is from my side, and I'll hand it over to sir.
Thank you, Vidyanshu. Now I will share from my side's current affairs. So I will start from environment and ecology, the current affairs. So COP20 it becomes very important this year. Firstly, you have to know the outcomes like renewable energy outcome, 3 into renewable energy. Cooling demand has to be reduced to 65%. And India is not the member of it. Green Credit Initiative of India, Lead IT, that is also Indian initiative. Warsaw Loss and Damage Fund, you should know about these things very well. Then Green Climate Fund, what is Green Climate Fund? And others outcome, that is African Fund and etc. Then Cheetah Reintroduction Plan. So in this plan, you have to focus on cheetah. What is cheetah? What is the difference between cheetah and leopard? What is the difference between Asiatic and African cheetah? From which country we have imported cheetah? Then Kuno National Park. What is Kuno National Park? Where it is located? Then rivers and peak in it. Okay. Then Tiger Census report also came in 2023. You have to focus on the MEE report that is in the ministry side. You can download from there. Then St. Petersburg Declaration, that is tiger into 2. Then is melanistic tiger, which is found in Simlipal. Then what are the 5 tiger landscapes? Then you can also found in the tiger census report. Then 56 tiger reserves of India. Then where is white tiger found? It is in Rewa. Then tiger range countries apart from India, which all countries have tiger? Okay. Then as Vidyanshu Bhai is mentioned about leopard census, then leopard census also becomes very important. In environment, what from my experience, I can tell you that you have to pick odd one out from the questions. In the environment, it will help you a lot. For example, they are asking about nocturnal, then you have to pick the odd one from the given statements. Then Samarkand Convention on Migratory Species, it is very important. You have to look at the Samarkand initiative. Then Panama Side Summit, you have to see because red centers have been removed from the list. Then G20 and environment, what are the India's initiative? That is Global Biofuel Alliance, you have to study. Then forest certification of India, actually new initiative has been launched, you have to study this. Then some famous species, you have to know this about in detail. First is elephants, then lions, then leopard, then tiger, then cheetah. then honeybees, then simple bees, then camel, because this is the year of cameloid. So you have to know about camel basic things. Then greenwashing is very important. What are green markets? What are green bonds? What is ESG bond? What is Forest Survey of India 2021 report? Where are the major forests found? What are the major forest states of India? These things you should know. Then recent news about new wildlife sanctuaries and national park, which Vidyanshu has already told you. Then amendments, recent amendments in Wildlife Protection Act, Biodiversity Act, Forest Conservation Act, etc. Then reports that you should must and you should never ignore is IUCN reports, IBPS report, IPCC reports. Then read BEAR Act, as Vidyanshu Bhai is told in static, that Wildlife Protection Act, Biodiversity Act, Forest Conservation Act, Forest Rights Act. Okay. Then conventions which are very important. First is plastic, mercury, Minamata, Mission Life, UNFCCC, Cumming Montreal Protocol, and what are the difference between HE Protocol, Montreal Protocol, UNCCD. Then places in news, I have made some important lists that you should never ignore. First is countries bordering Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Baltic Sea, and South China Sea. Then countries and rivers which you should focus is first is Nile, Volga, Thames, Dnieper, Danzig. Focus on places in news. Africa continent is very important because Africa last year also 4 questions were asked. So Africa, the refugee camps, you can ask. Lakes of Africa is also in news because they are drying in nature. Then Middle East refugee camps like Rafah is a refugee camp that is in news. Then separatist places, the countries which are demanding separatists like Catalonia in Spain, Quebec in Canada. Then terror attack places like recent terror attacks where it has occurred. Then India, Middle East, Europe corridor, you have to know the entire route. Then glaciers that are melting in news like Venezuela. Then places where disaster has occurred recently, example Turkey, Taiwan, Myanmar, etc. Then places in news, example Russia, Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, because these countries are there where war is going on. Nagorno-Karabakh, Taiwan, China. Then states and places, South America countries. South American countries also is very important because recently a lot of coups are occurring. Then MSP, read 23 crops. You should know all the 23 crops because recently farmers are demanding it. Then MS Swaminathan report, just have a basic outlook of the report. Then Abhijit Banerjee report is also on MSP. Then current process, you should know like biofuel crops, basic idea about Rabi, Kharif and Zaid crops, basic idea about cropping, net sown and irrigated area of these crops, rice, wheat, oil seeds, pulses and millets. Then millets you should cover in detail because it was India's year in millets in 2023. Then you should know about certain environment friendly practices like agrovoltaic, zero tillage, nature based farming, cloud seeding, and dryland farming. Then you should know the difference between cooperative and corporate farming, intensive and extensive farming. Then you should know about pulses of India from economic survey and budget because this year economic survey is not released, so you can skip economic survey. So you have to cover pulses, millets, rice, wheat, and sugarcane. They are India's ranking in terms of world. Then science and tech, as Vidyanshu has already covered, but I repeat the topics: AI, machine learning, Web 1 versus Web 2 versus Web 3, quantum computing, neural computing, 5G, three baby technology, mitochondria is a very important topic, UPSC favorite. Nanotechnology, plastics, polymers. You should know basic polymers like polythene, polystyrene. Then space mission of India, Nisar, Gaganyaan, Navik, Chandra 1 versus 2 versus 3. You should know the difference. Hard landing versus soft landing. Then Aditya L1 mission is a very important mission this year. Langrajya points you should know. GPS and GIS you should know. NASA important mission. Hubble versus James Webb Telescope. Mega science projects of India. Neutron, pulsar, cephalid, gravitational lensing you should know. Then subatomic particles like Higgs boson, God particle, muons. Then what is black hole theory of relativity? COVID vaccines this year are very important. You should know the basic idea about COVID. Then Raman effect. What is Raman effect? You should know. Recent Nobel prizes. You should know. Supercomputing, chatbot technology, Hyperloop versus bullet train because bullet train is a new technology of India and it is doing. So you should know the difference. Now history, since it is my optional, so I prepared a basic outlook how you should prepare history. From pre-Maurya to 1947, you should make a, like I have made in my notes, you should make a line diagram and you can remember dynasty. Then you should know the founders and capitals of basic dynasties like this. And focus on important topics like Buddhism, Jainism, medieval economy. Medieval economy, every year 2-3 questions are asked. Then land measure, Vedic era. Then IVC, as Vidyanshu Bhai mentioned, you should cover the important ports of IVC, dynasties of Mughal, Maratha, and art and architecture of Andhra, Mathura, and Gandhara school. Gupta and Bahmani, you should know the art and architecture. Then modern India, as Vidyanshu Bhai has mentioned, I will not repeat the points again. Then polity, in terms of my experience, all the points have been covered. Then for economy, banking, money market is important. Then budget terms. Then infrastructure, roads, railways is important. Gati Shakti is important this year. Okay, then for geography, as Vidyanshu Bhai has already mentioned about minerals, so I would like you to cover this coal, aluminium, their basic ores. Thorium also you should cover. And critical minerals you should also cover. Then deep ocean mining, what is it? What is the mission Samudrayan of India? Then major minerals of India. Then there is a MMDR Act. You should know the basic features of that. Then rivers, which are very important, are Ganga, Yamuna, Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari, Narmada, Tapti. You should know these basic rivers in detail quite, because UPSC is asking deep questions from this. Then basic concepts in geography like albedo, reflection, jet stream. Be thorough about biomes, that is biomes and climate like your taiga, tundra, etc. Important ocean currents and plains. Difference between minor and major mineral. Rock types is also important this year. Then G20 major cities of India where G20 summit was hosted. Then recent cyclone, earthquakes and extreme weather events. These are important current affairs from my side. So I have covered the important current affairs.
One thing I will suggest before exam is that you have around 2 weeks left. So focus most on last 10-year papers. Now there is no need to go for any more mock test. That will unnecessarily undermine your confidence. Focus more on last 10-year paper. The next focus should be on your static areas, important ones like polity, then modern history, then basics of economy and environment, these things. And in current affairs, keep your sources limited, because there is no end to current affairs. UPSC will always stay ahead of you in current affairs. Even if you read 10 materials, UPSC will ask from somewhere else. So work on your static part and revise as many times as you can and go through last 10-year papers.